Welcome back to the Business Book Club. Today we're plunging into a truly transformative story. It's one that didn't just reshape a single company, but is actively fueling our technological future and, really, propelling us right into the heart of the AI revolution. We're exploring Steven Witt's captivating new book, The Thinking Machine, Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, and the world's most coveted microchip. Look, if you want to understand why artificial intelligence is moving so incredibly fast and maybe more importantly, who is meticulously building its very foundation brick by brick, then this book and this deep dive is definitely for you.
Well, it's an incredible narrative. Witt really lays bare how one visionary leader, Jensen Huang, made this series of, frankly, audacious bets that turned NVIDIA into, well, arguably the most influential tech company on the planet right now. What becomes really clear throughout Witt's account is that this wasn't some smooth, straight lineup, It was forged through these dramatic pivots, nail-biting gambles, and moments of just sheer desperation.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to unpack the key themes and some surprising insights Steven Witt reveals about Huang and NVIDIA. We want to offer you a bit of a shortcut to understanding this pivotal moment in tech history. We'll delve into the making of a truly unique leader and the strategic decisions, the big bets, that led to NVIDIA becoming this indispensable arms dealer in the global AI race. Okay, let's get into it. Witt's narrative really powerfully illustrates how Jensen Huang's character was forged in adversity, and quite far from the tech hubs we usually think of, like Silicon Valley. Born in Taiwan, raised briefly in Thailand, then he was sent to a rural Kentucky Reform Academy at just 10 years old.
Yeah, and he initially, and mistakenly, believed it was a prep school.
Exactly. Imagine being a child thousands of miles from family in a place you just fundamentally misunderstood.
And that initial isolation, coupled with, racist bullying he faced, it didn't break him. Instead, Witt argues, it built this incredible resilience. He quickly learned to fight back, he excelled academically, and he internalized this mantra that you just had to toughen up and move on.
Yeah.
This refusal to be pinned down, this sort of sheer grit, it becomes a recurring theme, right?
Yeah.
A defining theme throughout his entire career. It's like a foundational element of his leadership DNA.
You totally see that drive continue.
Yeah.
Through relentless practice, he became a nationally ranked table tennis player. That shows an almost obsessive focus, dedication to self-improvement. And in a surprising twist, he credits working at Denny's, yes, the diner chain, with teaching him how to perform under intense pressure.
Right.
That's a skill that would prove invaluable later in the cutthroat tech world.
It's true. These early experiences really established a clear theme of self-improvement and this relentless dedication that would define his whole entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, fast forward to 1993. Huang, along with co-founders Chris Malachowski and Curtis Prime, they hammered out their business plan at another Denny's, this time in San Jose, maybe channeling those early pressure cooker lessons.
Maybe. Priam was the brilliant kind of eccentric architect, Malachowski, the practical engineer, and Huang was the logistician, the leader who could rally them. And they named the company NVIDIA, like a play on the Latin word for envy.
Yeah, clearly signaling their ambition right from the start.
But their first product, the NV1 graphics card, was, well, in Witt's words, a disaster. Just a complete miss. It was built on this esoteric architecture that game developers just quickly abandoned.
Okay, so that leads to a desperate gamble.
Totally desperate. Facing bankruptcy, Huang made this agonizing decision to lay off most of his staff, cutting the company down to just 35 engineers. He ditched a crucial deal with Sega and pivoted entirely to a generic Microsoft-compatible chip. And this wasn't just a minor tweak. It led to these furious, very public shouting matches with Prime, who saw it as a profound betrayal of their original vision. A really tough time.
Wow. Okay, so this is where the story gets truly intense, right? With absolutely no money left for traditional physical prototypes, the actual silicon chips, Huang poured their remaining funds into this massive, apparently rather ugly hardware emulator, a machine designed just to digitally simulate their next chip, the NV3. No semiconductor firm had ever dared to skip the physical prototype stage before. It was literally a 50-50 shot for the company's survival.
And the gamble paid off, just spectacularly. The NV3, rebranded as the Riva 128, launched in '97 and sold 1 million units in just 4 months. Unheard of. And this taught Huang a really profound lesson. Desperation, not inspiration, was the mother of victory. He didn't just learn it, he institutionalized this mindset.
Right, that famous mantra.
Exactly. He created the corporate mantra he'd repeat for years, even when they were making huge profits. Our company is 30 days from going out of business. This deep-seated sense of urgency, the belief that extreme pressure fuels innovation, it just continued to drive NVIDIA's future bets.
So the success of the Riva 128 really solidified Huang's control then, and he became this avid student of business books, especially Clayton Christensen's The Innovator's Dilemma. He saw that large, established firms often dismissed these new markets, like PC gaming, because the margins were initially low, just like, GM had once overlooked Honda's motorcycles.
Right, and this gave NVIDIA a wide-open path to attack from below to disrupt the giants. And what's particularly insightful here is how this foundational business understanding, combined with a direct challenge from legendary game programmer John Carmack, the creator of Doom and Quake, led to NVIDIA's next big breakthrough.
Carmack needed more power, right?
Oh,
Here's games.
desperately for his complex game world. So NVIDIA's chief scientist, David Kirk, proposed a radical solution: parallel computing, basically splitting complex calculations to run simultaneously.
Now, parallel computing had historically been what he calls it a graveyard of failed companies for general processors.
Yeah.
Because Moore's Law just made single, faster processors easier to design and use. But Huang and Kirk realized 3D graphics were fundamentally different. Unlike, say, sequential tasks, graphics involve millions of independent calculations for every pixel, every polygon. The demand for graphical power was effectively infinite. A single CPU was never going to be fast enough.
Exactly. So NVIDIA's Riva TNT, with its twin texel rendering, was built on this crucial insight, and it quickly became a massive hit.
And they didn't even advertise its parallel capabilities to customers.
No, why confuse them? But unknowingly, by brilliantly solving this problem for video gamers with this specialized architecture, they stumbled upon the secret blueprint. The architecture that would one day power pretty much all of artificial intelligence.
That's amazing. It's a perfect example of how a seemingly niche solution, for a very specific problem, can evolve into a global paradigm, if you see it right.
Absolutely.
So the true pivot, the moment they kind of inadvertently stepped onto the AI path, came when a graduate student, Ian Buck, discovered he could chain consumer GeForce gaming cards together, basically build a low-budget supercomputer.
Right. But the core problem was these GPUs were designed for rendering triangles in games, not complex scientific calculations. So he had to, smuggle his advanced math into the hardware. He wrote this incredibly intricate code to force these gaming cards to do science.
And Huang saw this.
Immediately. He recognized the profound untapped potential. He hired Buck and launched CUD, the Compute Unified Device Architecture.
This was another huge gamble.
Enormous. They added the necessary circuitry to every GeForce gaming card, essentially implementing a CUD tax, making gamers unknowingly subsidize this really risky side quest into high-performance computing.
Wow. So every time you bought a gaming card back then,
You were funding the future of AI research, yeah. Unbelievable.
Huang famously called it a $0 billion market. It was so niche, so speculative, no obvious customers, and crucially, no competitors either. But Huang had this unwavering belief it would eventually be massive.
But initial adoption was agonizingly slow. Investors were furious, apparently. It even triggered a manufacturing crisis at one point. Yet Huang absolutely refused to back down.
So why? Why did he persist against such overwhelming odds?
Well, he brought in parallel computing expert Bill Daly. Daly had been pitching parallel concepts for years to indifferent executives at bigger firms. But he chose struggling NVIDIA over giants like Intel because he was completely convinced by Huang's vision. And they specifically targeted academics first, like breast cancer researchers, understanding that these early, often unprofitable customers were the critical seed for a future revolution. That shows profound conviction, right? Looking way beyond immediate profits.
Okay, so the payoff for CDA finally arrived.
Dramatically.
2012.
Yes.
Alex Krzyzewski and Ilya Sutskever, students of AI godfather Geoffrey Hinton in Toronto, they used just two GeForce GTX 580 gaming cards, consumer cards, and CUDA to train this massive convolutional neural network, an AI designed to recognize patterns in images.
On millions of pictures. And they did it from Krzyzewski's bedroom. Incredible. This model, AlexNet, achieved an unprecedented breakthrough in image recognition. It won the ImageNet competition and fundamentally altered the course of computer science. GPUs allowed them to train neural networks literally hundreds of times faster than traditional CPUs.
And Hinton famously told other researchers,
"Drop whatever you were doing and buy NVIDIA GPUs. The floodgates just burst open."
Okay, so what happened next really redefined their trajectory again, didn't it? Just a few years later, 2017, a team at Google published this groundbreaking paper, Attention is All You Need. introducing the transformer architecture.
Right, this revolutionary AI design. It allows models to process huge amounts of data by understanding context and relationships. Predicting the next most likely word or note or even pixel, it quickly became a kind of skeleton key for AI.
But Google, despite creating it,
Yeah, interestingly, they suffered from what Witt calls big company inertia. They kind of missed its revolutionary potential initially, but OpenAI, led by Ilya Sutskever, the same guy from AlexNet, immediately recognized its power. They pivoted entirely to it, creating GPT, generative pre-trained transformer.
early versions weren't that impressive.
Not really, but they knew the key was scale, massive scale.
Mm.
By late 2022, ChatGPT, a chatbot fine-tuned on trillions of parameters, just stunned the world. It's eerily human-like text generation, code writing, problem solving.
And Huang saw this unfold.
Instantly, he immediately declared that NVIDIA was now, unequivocally, an AI company. The mission had crystallized.
So NVIDIA's hardware rapidly became the indispensable foundation for what's called hyperscale AI. Witt describes it as leading to a new industrial revolution. These data centers, filled with tens, hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs,
Right.
they're now called AI factories.
Right, leased by cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Their insatiable demand just drove NVIDIA's exponential growth. It was hockey stick time.
And to manage all that data flow, NVIDIA didn't just build powerful chips. They developed NVLink, a proprietary data superhighway, and strategically acquired Mellanox for its InfiniBand networking tech.
Yeah, that was crucial. A super fast, low latency data connection, essential for getting thousands of GPUs to talk to each other efficiently. This ensured that calculating speed was no longer the primary obstacle to AI progress. It was about the whole system.
But here's a really key point, maybe the real secret sauce. Witt emphasizes the reason that NVIDIA succeeded was not that its circuits were better. The reason was that its software was better. That's a huge distinction, often overlooked.
It's a truly crucial insight. NVIDIA's huge software team created this unparalleled ecosystem. Domain-specific tools like Drive for automotive research, BioNeMo for drug discovery, Clara for medical imaging,
And these toolkits are free.
free to use, which effectively locked researchers into NVIDIA's hardware upgrade cycle. They built an entire interconnected platform. This software-driven ecosystem is the fundamental engine fueling the generative AI explosion we see today. ChatGPT, DALL-E, Sora. They didn't just sell the pickaxes for the gold rush. They built the roads, the towns, the whole infrastructure.
Okay, let's talk about Jensen Huang's leadership style. It sounds as unique and intense as NVIDIA's journey. Witt describes the wrath of Huang, these public withering tirades.
Yeah, meant to enforce rigorous discipline and create what he calls educational opportunities. Yet, paradoxically, he almost never fired employees for failure,
Interesting.
which fostered deep loyalty, apparently, and consistently pushed people beyond their perceived limits. It sounds like an incredibly intense place to work, but one that undeniably inspired profound commitment.
He's described as being perpetually driven by anxiety, seeing imperfections everywhere. His famous mantra, "I'm never satisfied," even extends to scrutinizing like the placement of water fountains in his billion-dollar headquarters.
But beneath that exacting nature, his goal is to offer employees the chance to do their life's work, creating this culture where determined workaholics not only thrive, but feel a real sense of purpose.
What's really striking to me is his singular focus. After 2014, once AI really started taking center stage, Huang apparently abandoned all his hobbies. No more table tennis, no more cooking, just work.
Total dedication.
He truly believes AI can only lead to good for humanity and pushes his maximalist agenda relentlessly.
Yeah.
He seems utterly convinced of AI's benevolent potential.
Which, however, raises that important question. What about the risks? The risks that other very smart people in the field see quite clearly.
Right, pioneers like Yoshua Bengio and Jeffrey Hinton expressed serious concerns about superintelligence, about the PM scenario, the probability of AI causing some catastrophic outcome.
But Huang largely dismisses these fears. He views AI as just processing data, akin to a microwave. And he believes it will elevate humanity to become sorcerers, enabling amazing solutions like chore-happy robots. It's a really striking, fundamental difference in perspective among the leaders driving this revolution.
Witt also digs into the complex geopolitics swirling around this technology. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, in Taiwan.
Hmm.
It's the major production choke point for advanced chips globally.
Yeah, effectively acting as Taiwan's silicon shield against a potential Chinese invasion. It's that critical.
And the U.S. sanctions on China's access to advanced NVIDIA chips, plus global efforts to reshore chip manufacturing, it highlights this intense intersection of technology and national security.
Huang himself actually objects to the sanctions. He believes China will simply build it themselves if denied access. His focus remains on obeying the law while meticulously maintaining a global footprint, including, interestingly, significant investment in Israel's tech sector. It just shows the intricate, high-stakes balancing act required to navigate these rapidly evolving geopolitical realities when you're operating right at the nexus of technology, business, and international power.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive into the thinking machine and the mind of Jensen Huang. For entrepreneurs listening, his story really offers some truly powerful, actionable lessons.
Absolutely. I think first you have to cultivate relentless resilience. Huang's ability to thrive amidst adversity, from his challenging childhood to NVIDIA's near bankruptcy, it just shows how embracing desperation as a catalyst for victory can be paramount. He truly learned to toughen up and move on, and that mindset saved his company more than once.
Second, make audacious long-term bets. Even on those completely speculative $0 billion markets where no customers visibly exist yet. Remember him putting that sooty tax on gamers to fund a side quest into high-performance computing? That's a level of foresight and, frankly, guts that few leaders show.
Third, strategic pivots are absolutely essential. When the NV1 graphics card failed, he didn't just double down on a losing hand. He completely reoriented the entire company, even if it meant those furious shouting matches with a co-founder. He understood that in a fast-moving industry like tech, staying static was actually the biggest risk of all.
And fourth, don't forget the power of building an ecosystem, not just a product. NVIDIA's huge array of software tools offered freely are just as crucial to its dominance as its hardware. They didn't just create chips, they created an entire community, a platform that locked users in and really fostered innovation on their platform.
And finally, maybe most importantly, prioritize continuous innovation and self-reinvention. Wang himself, as his friends observe, continuously engineered himself to become a better CEO. He was constantly adapting. The microchip industry demands reinvention every few years, and he institutionalized that mindset. He recognized that not to gamble was the biggest risk of all. He saw himself and his company as a constantly improving product.
So what does this all mean for your business, for your entrepreneurial journey? Well, I think it means daring to look beyond the obvious, being willing to take huge risks for a distant vision, and understanding that the future often emerges from the most unexpected places. You know, like a graphics chip designed for gamers becoming the absolutely indispensable engine of artificial intelligence. The world is changing faster than ever, driven by these thinking machines. And those who are ready to adapt, maybe even embrace a little desperation and make those audacious bets, well, they'll be the ones who truly define the next era. That's it for this edition of the Business Book Club. We really hope this deep dive into the thinking machine has given you some profound insights and maybe some actionable tips for navigating your own entrepreneurial journey. Make sure to subscribe to the Business Book Club so you don't miss our next deep dive into the books shaping the business world. Now, that's a wrap for this episode of the Business Book Club. If you enjoyed the ride, make sure to subscribe so you'll never miss our next deep dive. Got a favorite business book you'd love us to explore? Let us know. We're always up for a good read. And hey, don't keep all these insights to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow book lover or your work buddy who's always looking to level up. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next episode.